Video game design, chapter 6, mobile game development. We're going to focus on developing games for mobile devices. And as the mobile industry continues to change the way games are played and the way they're produced, we see now a lot of developers are releasing mobile games. So, just giving some history on mobile games, comparing smartphones and tablets, 2D versus 3D, as well as other things. So going right into the history of mobile games. Mobile or on-the-go game systems began with a single gaming electronic devices. Think of Hangman. It was a simple electronic device just with one game, or a Tamagotchi. Keychain, it was just one game. Quickly, they were overshadowed by handheld systems that used cartridges, in which that allowed you to play multiple games. Think of a PSP, for example, or a Game Boy. You can play multiple games. You aren't just stuck playing that Hangman. Early examples besides the Game Boy include Game Gear. Current that we have out now is the DS by Nintendo. As I noted, the PSP, the PlayStation Portable. Then we move on to phone games, and it began with the PDA, also known as the Personal Digital Assistant, allowed for downloadable games in early app stores. Okay. Next, well, really at the same time with PDAs that had app stores and allowed for you to download games, as that was out, cell phone technology started to advance. Okay, kind of happening at the same time. Phones were no longer just phones. Okay. They included games. They weren't just there to call. All right, they included games. As early as 1997, Snake, the game Snake, was on a Nokia phone, similar to what you see on the right. And then now, more specifically with iOS and Android development, probably the two most popular systems. Quick history, we had in 2001, the first iPod was released. That also included games. In 2007, we had the iPhone and the iPod Touch that introduced color with the iPod Touch and the iPhone, also larger screens. 2008, Android was introduced, and then 2010 and after that, we have the iPad. Many Android tablets followed, and now they're just getting larger and better devices. In the text on page 115, kind of gives the argument between iOS and Android, that whole Mac or PC. The main differences between the two is, one, the hardware. Second, apps for both are developed differently. And thirdly, a difference is how their marketplaces function. Right, from the App Store with iOS and then Android's marketplace, they function a lot differently. But not going to go too much into that. We will briefly touch on it in our chat. Moving on. Now, if you were trying the program without GameSalad Creator, you will generally use what's called Xcode or Eclipse. And they are what's called this IDE, or this Integrated Development Environment. This was specifically for iOS and Mac. It was developed by Apple for development. And Xcode is mainly for iOS, where Eclipse is more so for Android. Also, you can have that included with Java as well. Eclipse mainly for Java or Android. Eclipse is a free open source IDE, Integrated Development Environment, that can be used with a number of programming languages. Okay. So if you're not using Creator, you generally will use what's called Xcode, mainly for iOS, or Eclipse, which is your Android and Java. Now, comparing, when we say mobile games, all right, we have smartphones or we have larger tablets. And just an example right here, the iPhone and its dimensions, that's compared to an iPad. To create a game that will work on both, okay, must focus heavily on the difference in screen size. Huge difference. You want to create graphics that will look good when stretched out on a larger screen, okay? And you want them to be able to stretch out, okay? So they can fit on the iPad or the tablets and obviously look good. Or what you can do is create different versions for each type of device. So create different versions of your game. Right? Obviously that would take longer than if you just had graphics that will look really good stretched out. The real best practice here you can do is test your game extensively on different emulators or other devices to kind of see how they will look, and if you want to change the graphics. Probably best to use graphics that will look best on both, okay? But you can go the route of testing on the different versions of each device. Now 2D and 3D with mobile games, they prefer 2D because storage size is less. Right? You got to think mobile platforms are less powerful and they don't have the storage space really for 3D graphics. Okay, so less storage size on the mobile devices. 2D takes up less space, less size. They are smaller in size. And there's also less quote-unquote hardcore gamers with mobile devices. So you don't really need the latest and greatest graphics. However, you can still include graphic complexity to prevent 2D art from seeming flat, kind of give it some enhancements. And GameSalad Creator provides that. So you can have 2D art but seem really enhanced for the mobile games. Tutorial we will complete in class. And now the difference in mobile design, okay, as compared to your console games that we've been talking about, or your computer games. Mainly designed for the quick fix, so while you're waiting in line, say at the mall, okay, you want to play quickly for 3 to 5 minutes and then put your phone away or mobile device away. It's more open to different gameplay styles and innovations. There is advertising, and it's really, advertising is encouraged by players because they rather play for free instead of paying for a product up front. So advertising is permitted and somewhat encouraged by players. But with mobile design, and as mentioned before with the 2D and 3D, it's limited in memory. You want to have any unused elements, game elements, or any unseen game elements, just remove them. Okay, so we can use as much memory as we can. Okay, your assets for your mobile games have to be as small as possible. Remember, we're not dealing with a lot of storage space here with mobile devices. Continuing, all right, with difference of mobile design, with mobile devices, we have new control schemes. We have touchscreen controls where you pinch, you swipe, and we also have accelerometer controls in which you're shaking your device, you're tilting your device, and you also use your smartphone's other capabilities as control schemes. So you can use the microphone in your phone, the camera, the GPS, for example. So you have other capabilities that are in your smartphone that can be included in the mobile design of your mobile game. Now publishing, if you were to publish a mobile game, you want to be sure that your game fits the App Store guidelines, really specifically with an iOS game with Apple, because they have very specific guidelines. But there's a website, cookbook.gamesalad.com, for instructions for publishing on iOS and also for Android. Right? A site to look at if you really want to go ahead and publish your own game, your own mobile game. Discoverability. Okay, there are tons and tons of apps. This probably has so many new apps a day. If you look into your smartphone's app store, in order for your game to be successful, people must be able to find it. And that was the big issue with Super Meat Boy when we watched the documentary. Okay, people must be able to find it. That's why they work so hard to get it right on the marketplace day one. You really have to market your game prior to release. An idea is to link to a YouTube video, have a short video of gameplay before you publish, so people can see what your game is about and become excited. So really important to publish and market your game so people can find it and then download it on their marketplaces on whatever device they are using. All right, and then on here, page 133 just covers steps to create a successful game trailer we'll view that in class as well with our chat. And lastly, just the future of mobile games. Now you see it with the Oculus Rift, and we used our virtual reality headset in class, and we have talked about it. Is this augmented reality, AR, attempts to mend what is happening in real world into the game. This is kind of the future, and you see it now. There are plenty of examples, and we also have now, besides AR, voice recognition. Okay, think of your smartphone being able, having Siri and having voice recognition, and you incorporating that into a mobile game. So, with mobile games, it kind of gives you the avenue of being innovative, trying something new, and taking chances. But that's mobile design, mobile gaming. We'll have our chat in class, and I'll see you all then.